Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Regenerative Business. And I have a new mic this week. Let me know if it sounds better. I attended Elizabeth Lyon's audiobook recording masterclass, and the guy who was the featured expert on it talked about when you have to record. I live on Maui, which is not the best place for stuff like services for recording your audiobook. And I was asking about in-home studio and what he recommended. And he was like, well, what do you have? I was like, I got a Blue Yeti almost a decade ago, and it's still what I use. And he was like, oh my gosh, it's the mic that everyone has that I never, ever, ever recommend for audiobooks or podcasting. Oh, great. So he recommended a different one. It was only like $70. So I think less than the Blue Yeti. And I think I'm stoked. I'm excited. It doesn't look as fancy as the Blue Yeti, but he says that it looks like one of those mics that you would hold at the front of a stage. It's just on a stand. So maybe this is how I'll start my singing career. I can't sing, but anyways, today we are talking about creating assets from overflow and making the most of your time and money. And I know that's phrase is very industrial mindset, but it sounded cheeky when I was writing it. So we're keeping it. And the reason why I'm thinking about it is if you tuned into the podcast last week, you know that the astrology of 2024 is a little funky. We have January and February. So right now and next month, February, the astrology is good. It's the best of the year. And then May and June also has some good astrology. And then all the other months are like yellow light or red light months. So I am feeling very full of energy, which is aligned with that collective astrology energy. And I just have been thinking about how can I make the most of January and February. And obviously, our own personal astrology are all of our own. It doesn't necessarily line up with the collective, but I just want to make sure that, especially after being sick at the end of last year and having low energy, just wanting to, it makes me want to make the most of the energy that I do have, considering that it feels very front and center of recently having much less energy. So with this, I think of this in gardening, where if you plant a seed, you can plant a seed anytime, right? I mean, in Hawaii, you can. In 4-season environments, you can plant a seed in like spring and summer and fall, and not in winter. But in Hawaii, like you can plant a seed anytime. And so you sometimes put it off, and there are some activities and some seeds that you can plant that if you plant it now or yesterday, it is growing without your energy, and you're just kind of waiting for time to go on. And the sooner you plant it, the sooner it will be growing and being able to blossom and being able to fruit, and you'll be able to harvest it. And this is also true with certain things in our businesses where you can technically do them anytime, but if you do them sooner than later, then they're working for you and they're working in the background of your business. So that's kind of the energy I'm thinking of when I'm thinking about creating assets from overflow. And I mean, another good metaphor here is like investment funds and investing in the stock market or in mutual funds, where if you start investing as young as possible and you keep investing, or even if you don't keep investing, that is actually better than if you start later on in life putting in significantly more money. Like if you've ever played with those investment calculators, it is shocking because you can say, okay, I put in $100 a month for 60 years. And like those are the numbers you plug into the calculator. It ends up being more money than if you put in $1,000 a month for 10 years because you have time on your side. Not that this is a podcast on investing in any ways, but there are things that you can be taking action on that once you complete that specific project or have that project started, it can be happening in the background. The preface to this is that there is no shame in how you use your time and money. However you use it is amazing. And this actually makes me think of The Financial Feminist, which is a book that I read, or an audiobook I listened to recently, which is fairly standard personal finance book. Like if you've read any personal finance book, she's not saying that much different than what a lot of other ones say. I mean, I can't actually say that truthfully because the first one I ever read was Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. That was and her messaging is her advice is very similar to his versus like a Dave Ramsey. She has a different kind of vibe than that for sure. But I remember in the book, one of the things or an amazing point that she made was how the word frivolous is often associated with spends like on getting your nails done, where it is never like that word specifically, frivolous, is never said for things like buying an Xbox. And that word is so connected with the way that women spend money and how women are taught to save and penny pinch, where men are taught to invest, and where women spend money on extra things that aren't quote unquote necessary and they're labeled frivolous, where like season tickets or an Xbox would never be called frivolous. So I don't want to shame you here. This podcast is more around when you have extra time, extra energy, extra money in your life, then how can we plan to use it so that it is working for you and it's not just overflowing? So we can imagine a cup of water or you can imagine even cupping your hands and there's water flowing into your hands, and there's so much water flowing into your hands that it is flowing over the sides of it. So how are we using that overflow? Because when we don't have an overflow, we're naturally more conscious. And when we are overflowing, and we do have that overflow, it is really easy to be unintentional, or some may say, quote unquote, wasteful. When you have a ton of energy and or a lot of time, you aren't really paying attention to how you spend that time or money or energy. But you do when you have limited time, like when the kids are home from vacation or when you're sick and your energy is limited. We're so conscious of our time. If you read the book Profit First, the very beginning of the book has this amazing toothpaste analogy where when you have a full tube of toothpaste, you are so liberal with how you use your toothpaste, right? You're like, oh, I dropped some on the floor and I'll squirt a bunch of it on my toothbrush. Versus when you're at the very end of your toothpaste, you're like squeaking out the tiniest little bits of toothpaste and putting in so much extra effort to get that last little bit of toothpaste out of the toothpaste toothpaste tube for days. So that's why when there is just less of something, we are so much more economical. We're so much more intentional with how we use that. So in these times of overflow, like right now in January, where we have this collective astrological energy in our favor, how do we actually use that overflow in a way that serves us for times when we might have less time, we might have less energy, so that we can actually use that extra money, use that extra time to be serving us, using that extra time, using that extra money to create assets. So let's look at a few examples with extra money or more than enough money. Even if it's not excessive amounts, you just have more than what you need to pay your bills and comfortably live. With that extra money, you might go and have some massages, go to the spa, go out to dinner, just buy random things online when you see Instagram ads on them. Or you can be using that extra cash to save up for or put a big investment and down payment down on a massive solar system, where one, and it, let's say that they both end up over time being or costing the same amount of money. One of those things, it's kind of like that water going and just flowing over your cupped hands, where the other one is water flowing over your hands and going into another cup. Because let's say you purchase that solar system, then going forward, you don't have an electricity bill ever. Forever, no more electricity bill, because the solar system, assuming it's an off-grid, not a grid-tie solar system, that is energy that you don't have to pay for. You invested in the technology, and now that asset is working for you. Or maybe a big way that you attract more clients and people into your business is by posting on social media a bunch, which is a great tactic. It works. And for years, you've been posting on social media, or maybe like for a 12-month period, you've been posting on social media a bunch, and it's created a bunch of clients. It's created a bunch of money for you. But maybe something changes in your life, and maybe you have a kid, maybe you get pregnant, maybe a parent falls sick, and you can't post on social media all the time anymore. Well, of course, you created those clients in the past, you created that money in that time period, but it wasn't actually investing in an asset that would work for you going forward. Versus if you spend a month or a few months creating a funnel that is automated, and I know funnel's a dirty word, we're going to be actually talking about it a lot this month, but let's say you create a funnel, so a way that people automatically are taken from one point in your customer journey to the next. They deepen their relationship with you automatically without you actually having to DM them or post. That is an asset where even if you get pregnant, even if a parent falls sick, even if you fall sick, it is running in the background for you. It is creating more success for you. So looking at a very direct example, back in September 2023, I had the manifestor urge of creating a couple funnels for my book, Regenerative Business. And we had a bunch of other projects going at the time. It was my birth month, which I like to take time off for. And I just was hit so hard with, I really, really, really suddenly was filled with all this energy to create this book funnel. And I'll get more specific in a second. So I spent a couple weekends, just the entire weekends, putting together these two separate funnels. And again, like it was excessive. I didn't just do one funnel. I created two funnels for my book. And I know the importance of funnels, and I know the importance of creating that sort of asset. But in terms of timing, it didn't necessarily make any sense with everything else going on in my life. But again, filled with manifestor energy for this project, did it. Got to trust it. I trust my design. And so the first weekend, I created this, what's called a free plus shipping book funnel. It's a very classic marketing funnel for a physical book where you set up ads, and to a group of people, you show them the ads, and it goes and shows them your book, and they can get the book for free. They just have to pay for shipping. And it was this whole thing for me to create it because I was on a new software platform. I had to figure out the actual tech behind it, which I'm a very tech proficient person, but for the life of me, I couldn't find anyone talking about how to actually fulfill a free plus shipping book. Like how do I actually deliver the book? I live in Hawaii. I can't actually send the book unless I want to spend a lot of money on shipping it who knows where. I had to create all of the ads. I had to create the creative. I had to write the things. And then, but I did it. I did it over a weekend and had that running, and it immediately started bringing money into the business, which actually wasn't the point of it. The point for me with that sort of thing was recognizing my book creates amazing clients in the long term. It's not just about the book sale. It's about creating amazing clients for the long term for my business. And then I wasn't done there. I got this like next wave of creative urge, and I created an entire Shopify store for selling my book at full price. and did a whole different strategy around ads. There's like different strategies based on different ads that you put up. And again, brand new ads, brand new creative, new messaging, new wording, essentially a whole new website, because I created this Shopify thing and started running those ads and just kind of set it. I didn't set it and forget it, but I set them up and just like let them start running and let them start happening. And then, you guys, there's a third wave. So again, same month, same things going on. And I revamped and restarted ads going for people to opt in for the first 2 chapters of my book. Because again, it was from this realization of my best clients come from reading my book. And people are bought in and understand my perspective from reading my book. So number one goal, get people reading my book or get people reading a chapter. And this is not to say go write a book if you have the urge to write a book. This is not to say that, but the underlying lesson behind this for you that you can take is recognize where your best clients come from, create intellectual property or ways that contain your genius that allow people to understand your perspective, allow people to get to know you, allow people to get a lot of value from you. And that would be a great way to enter a funnel. For me, it's the book that I've already written. So this is back in September. I had these. It was imperfect as someone who is literally paid a lot of money by other businesses to create funnels for them. They were completely imperfect funnels. Like normally I would have upsells, I would have downsells, I would have these long automated email nurture sequences that talk to the people and develop the relationship with the people who come in. And I didn't do any of that. I was just like, these are the things that I have the capacity to create right now. I'm creating them right now. And again, this is like, I'm planting the seed. I just need to get this seed in the ground. It's imperfect. I haven't done all of the soil fertility that I know to do. I haven't done fed the soil and filled it with nutrients and mulched it and whatever. I just need to get the seed in the ground. So I got the seed in the ground imperfectly, and just let it start it. I'm paying attention to it. I'm watering it. I'm checking the ads, turning off any ads that are just straight up not working. And it ended up being really quote unquote lucky or good intuition or good for following the creative urge of creating these different entry points. Because the thing that I thought would work, this free plus shipping funnel that was way more following standard marketing advice, it actually didn't work as well as this other random Shopify store that I ended up putting up. And again, this is not me telling you to write a book. This is not me telling you to put up a Shopify store to sell physical product, but instead about planting the seed and following the urges that come through. So I did these things in September. I planted the seed. I let them start to grow. And with that in the whole point of this episode is around creating assets from overflow. So I had this not even extra time. I didn't even have extra time, but I used this time to create an asset that was working for me in the background. So for 2 entire months, it ended up being like 2.5 months before the big launch, the big initial promotion for the Regenerative Business Creation Lab, I think I ended up tripling my email list. And from the ads, it ended up doubling my Instagram following. I mean, that's a benefit that a lot of people don't talk about with meta ads, Instagram and Facebook ads, is like the whole purpose was getting people onto my email list and making sales. But the side effect or this regenerative side effect of it is it also grew my Instagram audience significantly. So by the time, and this is 2.5 months is like a blink in this scheme of things, but when you're in the thick of it, it's a lot of time of week after week, this thing running in the background, tripling my email list, doubling my Instagram. Maybe it's not doubling, but like at least a 50% growth in my email list now from when it began, just from this seed that I planted in September. And now we're doing a lot of extra stuff in the background to really ramp it up and make it quote unquote optimized. But I really wanted to invite you today of what are ways in which you can plant that seed. You can create assets from overflow or even just normal flow. So some other examples of assets for in terms of money, that could look like hiring someone, putting in the time to actually hire someone to help you. And from experience for myself and for clients, hire someone when you're not when you don't actually need them. Because often when you are like desperate to hire someone, we hire someone that's not the best fit because we're desperate. Another example of an asset is buying an apartment. That could be a rental income for you. So yes, it requires a big cash influx or amount of saving, but then it's something that is working in the background, again, having an additional income, that polyamory of abundance, that diversified abundance. Another example is investing your money in index funds. Go listen to or read Financial Feminist if you want details for that. Another example would be hiring a coach or a hypnotherapist to change your core beliefs that are running your life. Like, you better believe that the sooner you do that, the sooner that will ripple out in the rest of your life. Could also be planting a tree so that in the future, like a literal actual tree, so that in the future, in a few years, you will have fruit from that tree that you can actually eat and enjoy and make jam from. So in terms of time, things that you can invest your time into or your energy into is creating standard operating procedures, which are fancier way of essentially saying how-tos, like the how-to of doing your business, so that when you do hire someone or when you do have some extra help, you can actually hand stuff over. It's also a way that your team can stop asking you a bunch of questions because there are standard operating procedures. You can up-level your website copy. That's something that can be working for you in the background, because every time someone hits your website, they will be seeing that. And if they hit it a few times, it'll be working on their own unconscious minds. And if they're aligned, if they're the right people, they will be more inclined to hire you in the future or purchase from you in the future. It could also be learning a new skill you need. So this is also something that can be easily wasteful, quote unquote wasteful, because I know plenty of people who who purchase courses or trainings before they need it, or like they'll buy 3 different marketing programs or 3 different mindset programs, or do a training on Google Ads and then never watch it or implement it at all. So that one is with a huge caveat. It could also be starting an ad campaign so your email list is growing, or creating that lead magnet and a juicy opt-in page so your email list is growing in the background. Another one for myself is, I think of this when I have been putting off delegating to my team, when really, if I tell people ahead of time, they can literally be working in the background completing things. So instead of being like, oh, I could just do that and then take 3 days to get around to it, I could tell someone from my team, hey, could you work on this thing? And they will actually go do it, versus me procrastinating. Because yes, I procrastinate on things. Okay, so in terms of regenerative business, this is really about being cognizant of your energy flow, making sure that energy is recirculating and helping your ecosystem to grow instead of fruit falling and decomposing on the ground. And I mean, of course, decomposition leads to more fertility, but you can also be eating that fruit or making jam or sharing it with your community. So really planting those seeds so that they can be growing in the background. And in terms of making this pleasurable, this podcast episode is now ending up being a plug for Financial Feminist, but we're rolling with it. Go read the book. It's actually excellent. So in her book, she talks about giving yourself permission to have fun money while also planning for your future. So that requires you to know how much money you have, or know how much time you have, or know how much energy you have, and allocating it appropriately. So in terms of the money, it would be, okay, this is how much money I need to actually pay for my life, pay for my rent, pay for my health insurance, the things that actually have to be paid for. Then, okay, with that, a certain amount of it is going to go towards the future and go into our assets building category. So that could be investing in mutual funds. That could be investing in building your funnel. And then a certain percentage of it you decide ahead of time is going to be your fun money. It's going to be your pleasure time. And taking any shame of it when you've decided ahead of time that this money is going to be spent on fun things. This time is going to be spent on fun, frivolous things. Let's unshame frivolous. I think frivolous is a fun word. Then that's how you really make this pleasurable, because you are feeding your current self by covering your current expenses and doing what needs to get done in your business. You are feeding your future self by creating these assets, and you're feeding your indulgent self by actually having fun and enjoying things. So, circling back to the beginning. Right now, January and February are very positive months collectively, astrologically. And if you're listening to this after January, February, or some other time in the future, like, that's not the point of this episode. This is just for people who are listening in real time. This is great for after you do a launch and you have a big cash influx. This is about allocating your extra time, your extra money, your extra energy so that in the future you can be served by what you planned. And of course, it doesn't actually have to be extra, right? It's using the time you have, the money you have, the energy you have intentionally so you can be served by what you planned. And on that note, right now, if you're listening in real time, so on January 18th, 2024, Evergreen Ecosystems is on pre-sale this month, so for about 10 more days, and pre-sale is 50% off. So massive discount for a few days, about a week and a half. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to thedirtyalchemy.com and click Work With Us, and then trainings, and it'll go to our big page of trainings. Or you can go to my link in bio on Instagram at @thedirtyalchemy, and it'll be right in my link in bio. Or you can go to the show notes of this podcast, and you'll see a direct link to the checkout page. And Evergreen Ecosystems is my full online course on building funnels, where we make funnel into the best kind of dirty word. And this includes the underlying strategy behind funnels. It's there's two different directions I invite you to go into within Evergreen Ecosystems. One in which, because some people really thrive with templates and they really thrive with just listening to what someone tells them to do, what an expert tells them to do. So I give you that track. If you're that person, you're just like, I just want to follow what an expert tells me to do. I'm like, great, this is what you should do. And then for my fellow rebels, there's the nonconformist track where I walk you through the strategies and the behind the funnel thinking for creating a funnel that is unique to your business based on your energy, based on your ecosystem, and based on what works in your business for your people. So you get both of them. Either way, tons of templates, tons of examples. It is a series of video trainings with audios and transcripts for all the different learning styles. And it is on pre-sale now, 50% off. And then you'll get all of the trainings at the end of the month to binge, to start planting seeds, and to really go nuts. So